Hello, my name is Matthew, and I read two biographies of Michelangelo. The first one by Giorgio Vasari, The Life of Michelangelo, written in 1550, part of my Penguin Classic edition, which also contains poems and letters by Michelangelo. And then I also read The Life of Michelangelo by Ascanio Condivi. And they really complement one another. The Vasari um, biography is grandiose and um, uh, huge and fawning and just a document of admiration of this great sculptor and painter and architect and this great man. And the other one by Condivi really has more textual details. But I'd like to talk about the Giorgio Vasari biography. It's one of my favorite things to read. I've read it a few times. Michelangelo is just one of those artists that rightly so is put on a pedestal, just at the height of what can be done visually. Paint and stone, raw material, this sculptor that was working with blocks of marble with hand tools, there's no power tools, and then just creating these unimaginably beautiful, eternal images. I love I've never seen anything by Michelangelo in person, but I've spent countless hours admiring his sculptures and frescoes and architecture in art books. And I want to just read a few of these passages because Vasari is so over the top and so um, blown away by the life of Michelangelo, and he does not disguise it at all. And his use of language, the kind of rolling, ornamental, um, stagey kind of language works so well. And it starts off with Vasari not pulling any punches. And I absolutely love this. I'll read a little bit of the beginning. I marked a few passages that just bowl me over. Um, this is how it begins. The most industrious and distinguished spirits, enlightened by the celebrated Giotto and his followers, had been striving to give the world some proof of those powers that the benevolence of the stars and their own temperament had given to their minds. But though they longed to imitate the greatness of nature with the excellence of art, they struggled in vain to approach that supreme knowledge that many call understanding. Then the most benign ruler of heaven kindly turned his regard towards the earth, where, seeing the vain multiplication of so much labor and the most assiduous studies still without any fruit, and the presumptuous opinion of men even further from the truth than darkness is from light, he decided to free us from so many errors by sending down a spirit who would be so universally skillful in every craft and art that his work alone would demonstrate how to solve the real difficulties in the sciences of drawing and painting, how to work with judgment in sculpture, and how to create truly pleasing architecture. It starts off by saying that Michelangelo was sent down as a gift from heaven. And it comes off, of course, as flattery or maybe a work of hagiography, or however you say that. thing is, when you look at what the man did, the sculptures and paintings that Michelangelo made, it's hard to disagree. They are these monuments that feel eternal and divine and heaven sent. It's hard to imagine that a man made these things. So I read it and I think, well, that's a little bit much. And then I have a second thought and think, well, maybe he's even understating it. And it goes through his life as a young man, and we just get this sense that he was a blazing talent and genius, had all of the natural equipment, and was in the right place at the right time and had the right teachers. And you get the impression in Vasari's Life of Michelangelo that although he worked very hard, he was focused, dedicated, disciplined, there was something inside of him that was more. Anyone else that could work twice as hard, 3 times as hard, 10 times as hard, couldn't accomplish what Michelangelo was able to do through hard work, but also natural ability, and an ability that feels unnatural, divinely talented. It's a drawing. Look at that. It's not the best example, but this is my copy of the Bible. It's the Oxford World Classics, and they chose to put a detail from the panel of Adam and Eve, which was a part of the Sistine Chapel that Michelangelo painted. And those paintings on the ceiling of this chapel just feel holy and iconic and eternal. There's so many images where it just seems like those are those are the invocations that come to my mind when I think about these holy figures, the characters in the Old Testament, these religious stories, the style and treatment that Michelangelo applied to this subject matter just matches perfectly. And let me see what else. So this is Vasari talking about the part of the tomb for Pope Julius II, which he's going to describe the 10-foot statue of Moses, and it's just so good. He also completed a 10-foot marble Moses, a statue whose beauty can never be equaled by any modern work, nor by any ancient either. Sitting in a highly dignified attitude, he lays one arm on the tablets that he grasps with his hand, while the other he holds his beard that hangs down in long marble curls, wrought in such a way that the hairs, which are so difficult for sculpture, are finely feathery, soft, and so precisely drawn out that the chisel seems impossibly to have become a brush. And he just talks about his descriptions of these sculptures are unctuous and beautiful. There's a great several page description of the Sistine Chapel where Vasari is just kind of moving along panel to panel, describing these beautiful, beautiful images. And we get to, I believe this is his description of maybe the Pieta. Let's see. This work has truly proved the beacon that so enlightened the art of painting as to illumine a world that for centuries had lain in darkness. And indeed, painters no longer need to seek out new inventions or original postures, special clothing for figures or unusual expressions or painterly devices for conveying sublimity and awe, because every perfection that could belong to the art has already been given to this work by Michelangelo. Not only are these some of the greatest images and sculptures done by a true genius, but Vasari is also saying there is nothing better in the ancient world and nothing that could be more perfect ever. And it's hard to disagree. It's one of my favorite details. I don't know if it's. I know that there's some truth to it, but of course I don't really know. But there's been lots of sculptors, and of course many famous Italian sculptors, and that have created truly monumental, amazing works. As far as I know, Michelangelo did something in sculpture that no one did beforehand and no one could do today. So, ever. A sculptor, I have a little sculpture I can show. Here's David. This is a replica that my friend Ben brought back for me when he saw David in Florence. So a sculptor would have a solid block of stone, of marble, and as he would work on it, he would take some off this side and then turn it, take some off this side and turn it, and he would work around, slowly starting to have this image emerge out of the marble. Well, there's unfinished sculptures by Michelangelo, and his process was entirely different, and we can see it in these unfinished sculptures. Michelangelo started at one side and worked straight through. And so in these unfinished sculptures, you see raw stone and marble, and then these beautiful Michelangelo sculptures almost emerging out. He just drilled straight through and then would kind of clean it up and make these raw materials feel like drapery or taut skin or loose curling hair. So the biography by Ascanio Condivi does follow along with some of the same beats, the same details. It's significantly less grandiose, much more of what would be considered an objective biography. But for Vasari's biography of the life of Michelangelo, I do want to read just the end. As I said at the beginning, heaven sent Michelangelo down to earth as an example in his life, conduct, and works, so that those who admire and imitate him might approach the fame of an eternal name, honoring nature by their works and studies, and heaven by their virtue, in the very way that Michelangelo has always honored both nature and heaven. And let no man marvel that I have here written the life of Michelangelo while he is still alive, For since we cannot expect that he should never die, it seemed fitting that I should do this small thing in his honor, so that when, as all men must, he leaves the body behind, no mortality will touch his immortal works, whose glorious fame will live as long as the world lasts, both in the mouths of men and in the pens of writers, in spite of envy and in defiance of death. And the last detail that I want to point out is that both of these biographies by Condivi and Vasari were written in Michelangelo's lifetime. It's incredible. So just some of my thoughts, a lot of reading of passages, but I just absolutely love the Vasari Life of Michelangelo. I often read it as someone that likes to think of themselves as artistically minded, and I find it inspirational. The works themselves speak for their own, but the way that he's described, it does feel, it reads like a man sent down from heaven. And then we have the sculptures and paintings to look at. It's incredible. Let me know if you've read either one of them. Let me know what you think about Michelangelo or his poetry or his letter writing. So please leave a comment if you would like, and thank you for watching.